Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in the Clown Decade where things are only getting worse before they get better. And today something rather unprecedented is happening, in that the FBI appear to have been completely weaponised quite openly against a former sitting president. The former president, who has been kicked off pretty much all social media platforms, was branded as the international enemy number one for the 4 years he was sitting, and the one who everyone seems to want to blame for the problems that Joe Biden has introduced. Yes, I'm of course talking about the Don. According to Donald Trump, he says that the FBI agents have raided his Mar-a-Lago, Florida home, as they appear to be trying to catch him with classified documents that he took with him after his presidency. Former US President Donald Trump has said his Florida home was raided by the FBI, and that agents broke open a safe. Mr. Trump said in a statement that Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach was occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Monday's search was reportedly connected to an investigation into Mr. Trump's handling of official papers. These are dark times for our nation, Mr. Trump's statement said. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. And in fact, thankfully, the BBC has put a link to his actual statement. So, statement by Donald J. Trump. These are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate. It is persecutional misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and attack by the radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024, especially based on recent polls, and who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and Conservatives in the upcoming midterm elections. Such an assault could only take place in broken third world countries. Sadly, America has now become one of those countries, corrupt at a level not seen before. They even broke into my safe. What is the difference between this and Watergate, where operatives broke into the Democrat National Committee? Here, in reverse, Democrats broke into the home of the 45th President of the United States. The political persecution of President Donald J. Trump has been going on for years, with now the fully debunked Russia scam, impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, and so much more. It just never ends. It is political targeting at the highest level. Hillary Clinton was allowed to delete and acid wash 33,000 emails after they were subpoenaed by Congress. Absolutely nothing has happened to hold her accountable. She even took antique furniture and other items from the White House. I stood up to America's bureaucratic corruption. I restored power to the people. I truly delivered for our country, like we have never seen before. The establishment hated it, and now they watch my endorsed candidates win big victories and see my dominance in all polls. They are trying to stop me, and the Republican Party wants more. The lawlessness, political persecution, and witch hunt must be exposed and stopped. I will continue to fight for the great American people. Pretty standard Trump response there. An awful lot of hyperbole, but really the overall point is one that I, again, do agree with. Because as Trump pointed out, there has been non-stop attacks on his character, complete fabricated stories about his past, and complete fabricated stories about when he was president. Off the top of my head, I can think of the time that CNN reported that he was wrong for tipping a box of koi feed into a koi pond, even though the Prime Minister of Japan did it right next to him first. And then, of course, there was the whole Charlottesville fiasco, where Donald Trump pointed out that there were far-left activists as well as far-right activists in Charlottesville that day, and that both sides probably had good people and probably had evil people too. And that was painted as him saying that he endorses white supremacy, which of course it doesn't. But now he is out of office and Biden and the Democrats are currently holding the White House. It seems that political attacks can go up to 11. Neither the FBI nor the Justice Department have commented on the reported search. An unnamed law enforcement official told CBS News, the BBC's US partner, that the Secret Service was notified shortly before the warrant was served, around 10 o'clock local time, and that the agents protecting Mr. Trump helped the FBI investigators. Several boxes were taken away, the sources said, adding that no doors were kicked down and the raid had concluded by late afternoon. A federal search warrant must be signed by a judge, though such a warrant does not suggest that criminal charges are expected. Law enforcement agencies must first demonstrate the possibility that evidence of illegality will be found. So just from what we're being told here, official sources won't comment on this search. According to an unnamed source, the Secret Service was only notified that this raid was going to happen shortly before the raid actually happened, and that there were agents, I assume Justice Department agents or FBI agents, were protecting Mr. Trump, and they just let the FBI go around the house. It's so much for his privacy, I guess. Though I suppose if they have a warrant, what can he do? I'd love to know who signed this search warrant, why they signed it, because apparently they need to demonstrate that there might be evidence of illegality found within Donald Trump's house. What was this evidence? Because I'd love to know. But given we're in the relatively early hours of this story breaking, I imagine more and more of this information will come out, but it all looks fairly sketchy at the moment, but that's mainly because there's a lot of information we just don't know yet. But this is absolutely huge, as there has never been a search warrant quite like this in American history, Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Arenberg told the BBC, describing it as a big deal. American presidents are required by the Presidential Record Act to transfer all of their letters, work documents and emails to the National Archives. There are also other federal laws regarding the handling of classified documents, and in February the National Archives said it had retrieved 15 boxes of papers from Mar-a-Lago, which Mr. Trump should have turned over when he left the White House. The agency later told Congress that the boxes included items marked as classified national security information. Mr. Trump's lawyer, Christina Bobb, told NBC News that some papers had been seized during the search. So this is where it's going to get not great for Donald Trump. There were clearly classified files and documents that Donald Trump had with him in his Mar-a-Lago house, or residence. And the National Archives have even pointed out that they should have received these 15 boxes and didn't. So if he had 15 and didn't return them for whatever reason, that might be what the FBI were trying to use to say, oh, maybe he's got even more stuff he should have turned over, and that would be illegal. But this is the problem these days. They're so secretive of what they do, and the information never comes out that we need when we need it to basically have us trust these institutions again, that it's very hard to give them the benefit of the doubt, especially from my perspective. Especially with Donald Trump, because a lot of the time, say with the piss dossier, it turned out that it was just a load of guff, basically. Absolutely no accusations about Donald Trump ever seemed to come true, and the only stuff that ever did was the grab them by the pussy fiasco, which, let's face it, in hindsight, really wasn't that bad. Well, even at the time, I didn't think it was that bad. But this is the level of attacks that Donald Trump has suffered for over 4 years at this point, probably coming up to 8. And a lot more of the time he seems to have come out on top, apart from obviously when it came to... Apart from the whole election fraud fiasco, I think he pushed way too hard on that, and it was way too risky for probably what wasn't actually going to overturn the election anyway. But even then, when he was saying that, I can see why people were taking him at his word, because it was more trustworthy than the media's. And it's still true today, even past all that. So we'll have to see what happens. The dramatic escalation of law enforcement scrutiny of Mr. Trump comes as the Republicans prepare for a possible further presidential run in 2024. News of the search has mobilised some of Donald Trump's supporters. A group of fans gathered outside Mar-a-Lago to wave flags and express their anger. House of Representatives Republican Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said, "I've seen enough. The Department of Justice has reached an intolerable state of weaponised politicisation." Meanwhile, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, a Republican, tweeted, "Using government powers to persecute political opponents is something we've seen many times in third world Marxist dictatorships." And I completely on side and can see why they'd say that. Because the Democrats, it's probably good politics to not let Donald Trump run again, because he is clearly a very, very popular man, especially in Republican seats, and especially with Joe Biden screwing things up as much as he is, and look, there's no going against it anymore. He's clearly so elderly that he can't look after himself anymore. I mean, look, he can't even put jackets on anymore. Literally, a good 10 to 20 seconds of Biden trying to put on his jacket here. I mean, okay, there's a lot of down thrust from the helicopter in the background, but he shouldn't be struggling like this, and he has to ask, like a child, his wife to help him get the other sleeve on. And even that's taking some time. This unironically reminds me of helping to dress my elderly grandmother because early set dementia was taking on, and she was just simply struggling to do it. It looks like the same thing here. It's almost like it's unnatural for him to put a jacket on these days. And then his glasses fell off, but mine do that sometimes, so I can't really blame him. But then when he'll be put up to debate against Trump, I can imagine that his speeches that he's been doing over the years, I think it'll all culminate into a debate with Donald Trump where he can barely get his words out. So if they can find any excuse to use the law against him to stop him running at all, then it's not hard to spin a story like this into that narrative. However, I am not saying that is what the Democrats are doing, and I am not saying that Donald Trump has done nothing wrong. I want to wait until more information comes out on that, because it has been drilled into me all my life to never jump to conclusions like that, because it makes you look like an idiot. Eric Trump, the president's second oldest son, told Fox News that the FBI's execution of the search warrant on Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate was related to investigations into the handling of the National Archives records. National Archives officials said that the former president illegally ripped up many documents. Some of them had to be taped back together, they said. Mr. Trump at the time rejected reports that he had mishandled official records as fake news. Of course he did. A senior Trump advisor in Palm Beach told CBS the new search by federal agents of Mar-a-Lago was about the presidential records. This is about the PRA, said the Trump source, who only agreed to speak on condition of anonymity. When have you ever heard about a raid because of the PRA? The source added, they, the FBI, just left, and they left with very little. So I'd probably ignore what Eric Trump is saying here, saying that it was to do with the National Archives, and I trust the insider advisor a lot more, because it seems a lot more of an unprecedented attack on the president if they are raiding because of the Presidential Records Act. Which, to be fair, they're both related anyway, so they're probably both true. And do I trust the National Archives telling us that Trump illegally ripped up some documents? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump in anger ripped up some documents that he shouldn't have. Should he be punished for that? Yes, it was illegal, and he shouldn't have done it. Should he be banned from running for president for it? Well, if Hillary Clinton could after quote-unquote acid washing her hard drives, then I don't see why Donald Trump should be banned from it. Though as MSNBC kindly tells us, the Clintons didn't acid wash her email server, no, she instead used an app called BleachBit. So she didn't use corrosive chemicals, but she did make sure that the information was not retainable. In case you needed reminding just how many stupid attacks were made about Donald Trump's claims. So finally, in a forthcoming book, Confidence Man, New York Times journalist Maggie Haberman reports that staff at the White House residency sometimes found wads of paper clogging the toilet, and that they believed Mr. Trump was the flusher. Ms. Haberman had posted photos which she says showed paper in a toilet bowl at the White House. A senior White House official has told CBS that President Joe Biden's administration was given no notice of the FBI search in Florida on Monday. The White House has said it is limiting its interaction with top Justice Department officials to avoid any hint of political pressure or impropriety. Mr. Biden pledged during his White House campaign to stay out of Justice Department affairs. The Democratic president and his family are also waiting to see whether federal prosecutions will indict his son, Hunter Biden, on tax evasion and other federal charges. I imagine such as smoking crack, human trafficking, and possible paedophilia. But the FBI aren't raiding his house, are they? They're not raiding anyone who had anything to do with Epstein, Maxwell, or the Antifa cells that Andy Ngo has done a good job of keeping an eye on. But I mean, this raid is so ridiculous, even BBC News' political analysis is rather sympathetic towards Trump. So there is a school of thought that the timing of the search is designed to avoid the long-held maxim that the Justice Department does not engage in actions that are deemed politically sensitive near the time of an election. We are exactly 3 months away from the poll that will determine the makeup of the next Congress. Rarely has there been such a sensitive time in American politics. Mr. Trump certainly believes the motives behind the raid were entirely political, a move designed to scupper his chances of running for the White House in 2024. But there is much we do not know. But Mr. Trump supporters are apocalyptic with rage at what's happened. There's an open question why the search warrant was needed to enter Mar-a-Lago when the former president said he has been cooperating with the relevant government agencies, but it is a hugely significant move by the Justice Department. So even BBC News are kind of on my side with this. They're saying, look, there's a lot we don't know, hopefully more information will come out, but this looks very, very dodgy. Even the BBC are admitting it, and the BBC were, of course, with the rest of the media, attacking Trump for unfounded and unsourced claims. But I don't know, maybe they've turned a leaf in the new book over in the American BBC, who knows? But until more information comes out, neither me or the BBC can really comment further on what's going on. But just to reiterate, I would not be surprised if in 10 years it turned out this was a move by the Democrats or the Justice Department using their own volition to try and stop Donald Trump from becoming the next president, because he's an open enemy to the Justice Department. Because, I mean, why wouldn't he be? They've tried to get him for years. But also, it wouldn't surprise me if they find anything on Donald Trump, because the man is known to go rogue a bit. And if the worst he did was just tear up some official documents he shouldn't have, okay, fine him, whatever, that's all you need to do. He shouldn't be stopped from running for the White House again because of that. Because it wouldn't surprise me if every president has done that to some extent. It's just they really hate Donald Trump and he went after them, so they're now going after him. And if he gets in 2024, hopefully this time round, he'll do a lot better job of stripping the Justice Department and the three-letter agencies, because they just seem like the worst organisations in the world, both domestically and internationally. And I also hope that when he gets in, he will completely reverse what the Democrats are currently doing in a recession with the IRS. A new IRS army of 87,000 new enforcers and 700,000 new audits on middle-class Americans. Congressional Democrats are on the cusp of doubling the size of the IRS, allocating $80 billion to expand the IRS, including tens of thousands of new IRS enforcers. The IRS funding in their Inflation Reduction Act, right, is all but certain to become a reality after the Senate passed the measure over the weekend. The bill is set to more than double the IRS's current workforce, making it one of the largest federal agencies and increasing its budget by roughly 600%. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer praised the bill, saying, "I'm confident the Inflation Reduction Act will endure as one of the defining legislative feats of the 21st century." It's amazing how you'll call a bill an Inflation Reduction Act and then explicitly do something that will increase inflation, such as printing more money to spend to double the IRS's size so that it can investigate whether people are committing tax fraud. What would have been a lot better is just reducing tax. But even media sources like the Wall Street Journal are sounding concerned about the IRS part of the plan, writing, "Democrats claim this investment will yield more than $200 billion in revenue. That estimate is highly speculative, but it's anywhere close to right. IRS auditors will soon be coming after tens of millions of Americans. That's because the huge spending bill creates a whopping 87,000 additional IRS auditors who will target Americans by launching over 1 million more tax audits per year. And Ted Cruz says middle-class taxpayers and even lower-income earners are going to end up bearing the brunt of the expected audit storm." This is how bad things are going for the Democrats at the moment. Imagine overseeing an economy where gas has got up to about $9 a gallon. The definition of recession was being changed real time, and that's not even a joke. 41 times the recession page on Wikipedia was edited within a week. The lengths that every arm of these institutions are going to try and cover up the fact that America is going downhill pretty fast is incredible. But hey, at least the Supreme Court are leaning on the side of state rights, so not everything's going terribly over there. And I'm of course saying all this from the United Kingdom, where in some ways things are worse, in other ways things are better, but at least we're going to have a change of leadership soon, so hopefully things will start going uphill again. But this is Clown Decade, and it won't do that. But yes, there we go. That is everything I had for you today. God, I do hope things get better over there, America. I'm seeing a lot of mixed news this decade, but honestly, I think for both of us, things are only going to get worse before they get better. But for all my American friends out there, I will be by your side as we watch our crumbling civilizations fall to pieces in places while we support the areas of politics, of institutions, of our own families and friends who are there actually building the good stuff for our countries. But as I say, that's everything I had for you today. So as usual, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.